panachadidi kunja Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Madhava Jai Kunja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vāsadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vāsadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnu Padpanam Hangsha Puri Braja Acharya Ashtatara Saraswati Samachala Abhay Charan Arabinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Iskon Pratishtha Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki Shamaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Navadip Mayapur Dham ki Grantrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Nitai Gauda Shitanata Premanande Bande aham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Urupam Shagara Jatam Shahagana Raganatam Vitang Tang Shajibam Shadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Shibisha Gangidangscha Mantra Guru Ajota Shika Guru Ganta Charane Age Korea Bondan Bancha Kalpa Turubi Eshta Kripa Shenda Beba Chapoditanam Pavaneba Vaishnava Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudamani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shandavadi Prashtadadesha Tadane Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya Krishneshvadamo Bhagate Dharmagyana Adivishah Kalo Nashtadrisham Esha Puranak Aranoditaha Gantrat Srimad Bhagavatam ki It's text 5, chapter 9, canto 1. Tatra brahmarṣayaḥ sarve devarṣayaś sattama rājarṣayaś tatrāsan draṣṭuṁ bharata-puṅgavam tatra brahmarṣayaḥ sarve deva-ṛṣayaś sattama rājarṣayaś tatrāsan draṣṭuṁ bharata-puṅgavam. Like to chant? Tatra, there. Brahma-ṛṣayaḥ, Rishi among the Brahmins, sarve, all. Deva-ṛṣayaḥ, Rishis among the demigods, cha, and sattama, situated in the quality of goodness. Raja-ṛṣayaḥ, Rishis among the kings, cha, and tatra, in that place, āsan, were present, draṣṭuṁ, just to see, it's Bharat, Bharat, the descendants of King Bharata, Puṅgavam, chief of. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Now, today we're reading 3 verses. I'll read the translations of the previous verses and then the translation of this verse. It's text number 2. At that time, all his brothers followed him on beautiful chariots. I'll read the first verse as well. Text 1, chapter 9. Sutta Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhīṣmadeva was lying on a bed of arrows about to pass away. At that time, all his brothers followed him on beautiful chariots, drawn by first-class horses, decorated with gold ornaments. With them were Vyas and rishis like Domya, the learned priest of the Pandavas, and others. O sage among the Brahmins, Lord Shri Krishna, personality of Godhead, also followed, seated on a chariot with Arjuna. Thus, King Yudhishthira appeared very aristocratic, like Kuvera, surrounded by his companions, the Guyakas. Text number 4, seeing him, Bhīṣma, lying on the ground, like a demigod fallen from the sky, the Pandava king Yudhishthira, along with his younger brothers and Lord Krishna, bowed down before him. And text number 5, just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, Bhīṣma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis amongst the demigods, the brahmins and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there. There's a couple of purports, small, short purports. I'll read purport to text 5 and then I'll read purport to text 4, which we will discuss in detail. The rishis are those who have attained perfection by spiritual achievements. Such spiritual achievements can be earned by all, whether one is a king or a mendicant. Bhīṣmadeva himself was also one of the brahmarṣis and the chief descendants of King Bharata. All rishis are situated in the quality of goodness. All of them assembled there on hearing the news of the great warrior's impending death. Purport to text 4. Lord Krishna was also a younger cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthira, as well as the intimate friend of Arjuna. But all the family members, I'll read the verse again, text 4, this purport. Seeing him lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, Bhīṣmadeva, the Pandava king Yudhishthira, along with his brothers and Lord Krishna, bowed down before him. Purport, Lord Krishna was also the younger cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthira, as well as the intimate friend of Arjuna. But all the family members of the Pandavas knew Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord, although conscious of his supreme position, always behaved in a humanly custom, and so he also bowed down before the dying Bhīṣmadeva, as if he were one of the younger brothers of King Yudhishthira. Srila Prabhupada ki Mukam karati bachalam pangam langate girim jat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum dinatarinam. All the family members of the Pandavas knew Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now this is a special relationship. It's actually analyzed by Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Vishwambara in his teachings to Rupa Goswami in Madhya Lila chapter 19, Rupshikha. He gives the example of the Pandavas and the way that they love Krishna. That's prema. They're all in prema bhakta. And the way they love Krishna, he describes that in comparison to the way Brajavasis love Krishna. So he gives these examples of the Pandavas. Just like Queen Kunti, we hear Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. We heard the previous chapter. Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Kunti Maharani. She's saying that Govindaya Namo Namaha. She's offering up. She's not bowing down to her nephew in that way. Namo Namaha. She's understanding he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Govindaya Namo Namaha. And at the same time, she sees him as Nanda Gopa Kumaraya. Nanda Gopa Kumar. Nanda Gopa means Nanda Baba. Kumar, the young, youthful Nanda Dulal, the darling son of Nanda Baba in Vrindavan. That intimate, that village Gopal cowherd boy. She has a relationship with him like that, as a nephew, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya. And Govindaya Namo Namaha. At the same time, she knows, she understands him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna gives the example of Arjuna, the Pandavas. Arjuna. This type of love of Kunti Maharani is called, of Vasudeva, of Devaki, of the Pandavas, is called Gaurava-Shakya Prem. Gaurava-Shakya Prem, also called Aisharja Jukta Prem. Aisharja Jukta Prem. Aisharja Jukta Prem means that there is Aisharja Jukta, there is understanding of the opulence, Aisharja, the opulence of the Lord. His controlling, Aishwarya means Ishwar, his potency as the Supreme Controller. Aisharja Jukta, that is mixed, Aisharja Mishra Prem, that is mixed in their conception of Krishna and in their love for Krishna. Therefore she prays, Govindaya Namo Namaha. Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. You are the ultimate abode, the supreme, the original person, the unborn, the greatest. He has full awareness of the Aishwarya Shakti, the potency, the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, Mahaprabhu gives the example of Arjuna that when he's seeing the universal form, he's actually apologizing. He apologizes to Krishna. Hey Shaka, hey Jadav, hey Krishna, hey Jadav, hey Shaketi, ajanata mahimam tabayidam. I've called you my friend. Hey Krishna. Just like say, hey Krishna. Hey Shaketi. Hey friend. Hey Bandhu. Hey friend. Hey buddy. I've called you like that. Ajanata mahimanam tabedam. Forgetting your mahimanam, your greatness. Please forgive me for dealing with you like that. We sat on the same seat and chatted. We ate together. We choked together. Sometimes I boasted in front of you. And he's remembering that activity, and he's regretting that. He's ashamed. Oh, please forgive me. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I forgot that, and I treated you like an intimate friend. So Mahaprabhu is explaining, and this is as an example of the Aishwarya overwhelming the intimacy. It completely overwhelms the intimacy. And he compares Arjuna in that situation to Majashoda. Majashoda in Vrindavan. He describes Kebal Shuddha Prem. In Vrindavan is Kebal Shuddha Prem. It's not Aishwarya Jukta Prem like in Vaikuntha or in Dwarka, Hastinapur, Aishwarya Jukta. It's Kebal Shuddha. There is no concept of the supremacy of the Lord in Vrindavan. Kebal Shuddha Prem. Aishwarya Najani. Aishwarya Najani. They have no conception of his opulence. Aishwarya Dekleo Nija Shambhana Shemane. Even when the Lord displays his opulence in Vrindavan, Aishwarya Dekleo, he displays his opulence. Nija Shambhanta Shemane. They never forget their intimate personal relationship with him. It never overwhelms their intimate, personal, familiar relationship with him. He gives the example of Majashoda. When Krishna, they came back, and Balaram said, "Oh, Krishna ate clay." "Oh, no, Krishna is he's just making a case against me, a false case, because we had an argument today." Majashoda said, "Then come, let me see. Sit on my lap, let's see. Open your mouth." Aishwarya Dekleo. He displayed at that time the full opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Within his mouth she saw the Virat Rupa, the universal form, Mahatattva, Pradhana, Tribhuvan, all the material worlds, Karanakshayi, the causal ocean, Garbhodakshayi, Vishnu. She saw even saw Vrindavan, and Nandagram and her sitting there with Krishna on her lap. He's displaying. And momentarily, Majashoda begins to, it's like what do they call that? A religious, it's called a religious experience. And she gets all philosophical, and she thinks, why am I wasting my time in household life? I should be pursuing Atma Tattva. It's very fascinating. Majashoda, she's thinking that. I should be pursuing Atma Tattva. And then she says, you have got no time for Atma Tattva. You've got to feed your child. Even though he displays such opulence, he's showing actually their intense Kebal Prema, that even he displays opulence. No, he's just my child. I've got to feed him. Now in Navadip Dham it's the same. Sri Gauda Mondol Bhumi Jaiba Jane Chintamoni Tara Hoi Braja Bhumi Ibash Thakur Nota Mahashaya. He explains that Gaur Mondol Bhumi, the place where Sri Sachinandan performed his transcendental pastimes, Jaiba Jane Chintamoni, those who know that this is fully transcendental Chintamoni, Tara Hoi Braja Bhumi Bas, is non-different from Vrindavan. And all of the pastimes that we see in Vrindavan are performed similarly. When Sachinandan, he appears as a cowherd boy in Brajabhumi, and Brajajana Ranjan, he gives pleasure to the Brajajan, the residents of Vrindavan. And similarly in Navadip, he appears as a Bipra Shutra, Shachi Kumar, Jagannath Shuta, the son of a Brahmin, and he performs the same pastimes, and all of the Gaudange Roshangi Gone Nita Shidha Koni Mone, all of the pastimes of the Lord, all of the associates of the Lord in Navadip Dham, they're his Brajabashi associates. Brojendra Nandana Jai Shachi Shuta Hoiloshe. That Brajendra Nandan, he appeared as the son of Mother Sachi. Balarama hoilo nitai. And Lord Balaram, Lord Balaram, he appeared as Lord Nityananda. And all of the associates also appeared. So that Jasoda is Sachi Mata. And Nanda Baba, he is Jagannath Mishra. And they have the same Kebal Prem. Even when the Lord displays his opulence, it never disturbs their familiar, intimate relationship with him. Jashoda Ma, she took a stick. Why this happens? Because this is the Braja Bihari. If they're thinking that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how can Ma Jashoda pick up a stick and chase him? Oh no, you can break as many butter pots as you like. You can scatter the yogurt here and there. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govindaya Namo Namaha. No, where's the fun? She's never thinking like that. She's chasing him with the stick. He's afraid. The lines on his neck are quivering. He's like a child. He forgets he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, Jashoda Bhyo, why would he be afraid of Mother Jashoda? So in the same way that Mother Jashoda takes a stick to chastise Nanda Dulal, Jagannath Mishra, he also takes a stick. When the Brahmins, they all gathered together, the Navadip Brahmins, they would take their bath every day, just try to understand the opulence of Navadip Dham. Navadipa Shampati Ke Boni Bare Pare. Who can describe Shampati, the opulence of Navadip Dham? Ek Ganga Ghate Loka Lokshnan Kore. In one ghat on the Ganga, Loka Lokshnan, Loka means 100,000. Ek Ganga Ghate Loka Lokshnan Kore. In one ghat, 100,000 people are bathing. Srila Vrindavan Thakur is describing. And there are many, many ghats. And Sachinandan, he would go from ghat to ghat and enjoy his Jol Kela, his pastimes in the water. I mean, the ghats of Ma Ganga, that was the place to be. The aristocratic Brahmins, the renowned sannyasis, the pious householders, the matrigan, the ladies, they all gathered on the bank of the Ganga every day. Thousands of people. That was the place to be. In Navadip. And Sachinandan, every day he would enjoy so much pastimes. The Brahmins would be standing in the water chanting Gayatri. He would come under the water, he would grab their feet, he would pull them under. Sometimes he would appear, they're chanting, they're meditating, Shandya Bandhan. And he appears from the water, he spits water in their face, and he says, who are you meditating on? I am the incarnation for the age. One Brahmin set up all of his puja paraphernalia on the back. He takes his bath, he set up his āsan, his durba grass, his flowers, his mala, his chandan, bhoga. Everything is set up there. He takes his bath, he's going to come sit down. While he's taking bath, Sachinandan, he sits on that place, that āsan, he's looking at the Brahmin in the water. He's eating the offerings, puts the chandan, puts on the garland, and then the rest of the ingredients he scatters here and there. And laughing and smiling, he calls to the Brahmin, the object of your puja has been fulfilled. Your object of worship has been satisfied. I am the incarnation for the age. Just worship me. He climbs on the shoulders of the Brahmins and calls out, I am Mahesh. He stole one Brahmin's Bhagavad Gita, stole one Brahmin's Shivalinga. He would exchange where the Prabhus put their clothes and bathe. He would put the Mataji's clothes. For hours and hours, this would go on. So even the Komaris, the young girls of Navadip, he also plays and gives them so much transcendental trouble by putting seeds in their hair, by throwing dust on them, spitting on them, calling them names. To some girls he says, I want to marry you. Will you marry me? Kanned kore ama puja ami debo bhor. You worship me, ami debo bhor. I will give you benedictions. Ganga, Durga, Dashi, Amor, Mahesh, Kinkar. Ganga, Durga, Dashi, More. They're there worshipping the demigods and bathing in Ma Ganga. Ganga, Durga, Dashi more. He says, Ma Ganga and Ma Durga, they are my maidservants. Mahesh, Kinkar, and Lord Shiva is my servant. He's a young boy. Could you imagine seeing that? He's Balla Bhab. He's 4 or 5 years old. 4 or 5 years old. I am Ganga Durga Dashiya more, Mahesh Kinka, and he says, Ma Ganga and Ma Durga are my maidservants, and Lord Shiva is my servant. Can you imagine seeing that? Would that not be sweet to see? Vrindavan Das Thakur is allowing us to see. So they all gathered together in a group. Actually, they couldn't even catch Nimai because he was swimming so fast, they couldn't catch him. So all Brahmins gathered together and they go to Jagannath Mishra, and then they make a big complaint. You can just see them, they're standing there one after another, and Jagannath Mishra is sitting listening. One Brahmin says that all of those things I mentioned, they all, and the girls, Sachimata. Sachimata says, I will bind him up and I will chastise him. I will make sure he never goes to the Ganga again. I will bind him up, she said. They touched Sachimata's feet and went back to the Ganga to take their bath again. The Brahmins said that we can't take our bath. We have to bathe many, many times. Because of Sachinandan's disturbances. We can't take bath. Every day this happens. He stays there 2 or 3 hours. And then they go back to take their bath. So Nimai's not there. He's at the Ganga. They all went off and Nimai carried on playing. Then Nimai says to these friends, look, when Jagannath Mishra comes with the stick, you tell him that I didn't come to the Ganga today and we're all still waiting for him. So hearing all these stories, these complaints of the assembly of the Navadip Brahmins and the Kumaris, Jagannath Mishra is very angry. He takes a stick. He goes to the Ganga. He's walking up and down the bank. Where is he? Where is Nimai? With a stick in his hand. Very angry. And the boys are there in the water. Nimai didn't come today. Jagannath Mishra, fuming with rage, goes back home. And then Sachinandan, he appears as though he appears on the path as though he had never even taken bath. And Vrindavan Das Thakur describes that he's like with his golden anga, his golden limbs, a beautiful young child, Balla Roop. He's walking on the sandy path, walking back with the wind blowing, the nakal, the coconut trees. He's walking. His Gauranga, his body is the ink, smudges of ink are still on his body, on his dress, on his limbs. He looks like, Vrindavan Das Thakur explains, he looks like a champa, a golden champa, shonar champa, golden champa, beautiful fragrance. Golden champa, surrounded by bumblebees. And he comes home. And Jagannath Mishra says, look, what sort of intelligence you have, Nimai? That you don't allow these Brahmins to take their bath? Nimai says, Baba, I haven't even gone to the Ganga today. I haven't even gone to the Ganga today. What is these false accusations? Jagannath Mishra says, what? He looks, and they're looking and he's dressed. And he says, Ma, bring the oil, I'll go and take bath. He goes to the Ganga to take bath, and they're sitting there, Jagannath Mishra and Sachimatra, they're completely bewildered. How is this possible? These Brahmins, they're not going to make a false case. And the Komaris, why would they come here and make a false case? How is it he appeared, the same hair, same clothes, just as he left in the morning? How is this possible? Is he some extraordinary being that he can perform these amazing activities? They're wondering. They're not sure. You know who's Jagannath Mishra? Don't forget, he's Nanda Baba. He's not an ordinary Brahmin in Navadip. He's Nanda Baba. He's Nitya Siddha. Krishna, Nitya Parshad. But he's wondering. Maybe he's a special being. Maybe he's a special, extraordinary person. Same way, the associates of the Lord, they don't know he's the Lord. Advaita Acharya, he's God. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Moni Moni Chintai Advaita Mahashai Prakrita Manushta E Balok Nai. He's seeing Sachinandan when he comes to call Vishwarup, go back for lunch. He's seeing his beautiful form. Moni Moni Chintai Advaita Mahashai. He's thinking maybe Prakrita Manushta E Balok Nai. This boy, he's not material. He called for Mahaprabhu to appear. And he's coming every day, but he doesn't know. This is the Jogmaya potency, so that the pastimes. If everybody knows he's God, then there's no fun. It takes away the Lila Ananda. So Advaita Jagannath Mishra, he's wondering, maybe he's a mystic city, maybe he's at that time, even Jagannath Mishra, he had a dream. And an effulgent Brahmin appeared to him in a dream. And the Brahmin said that you're wasting your time trying to chastise your son, because he's fully Jnana Samudra. He's an ocean of knowledge. Your education of his is no use. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the dream, the Brahmin, effulgent Brahmin, was saying, and Jagannath Mishra replies, Mishra kohe, Deb Shiti Muni Keni Noi, Jai She Bodo Hok Matro Ama Tanoi. Mishra Bole, Jagannath Mishra replied, in the dream, he replied, Deb Shiti Muni Keni Noi. Deb, maybe he's a demigod or the Supreme Lord. Shiti, maybe he's a perfected being. Dev Shiti Muni, maybe he's a great mystic yogi. Keni Noi, why not? Jai She Bodo Hok, no matter how extraordinary he is, he might be, Matro Amar Tanoi. As far as I'm concerned, he's my son. and I have to give him, I have to correct him. So he performs these pastimes. Even the demigods, they appear in dreams to tell him he's the Supreme Lord. But Kebal Shuddha Prem, Aisha Jana Jane, Aisha Jadikleo, Nija Shambanda Shemani. That this in this Vrindavan, this prema in Vrindavan, it is so indicating the intensity of Vrindavan prema, that even when there's display of opulence, the Supreme Lord, even when he displays his opulence, it doesn't affect the intimacy and the familiarity that is called Kebal Prem. Because this is Mahaprabhu is explaining in his teachings to Rup Goswami that the quality of Braja Prem, the love of Vrindavan, Braja Prem is a higher quality. It's a more intimate quality. Therefore it's called Kebal Prem. And the Aishadya Jukta Prem, there is some sense of servant and master. And therefore there is an obligation, some obligation. Why? Just like, for example, we can think of a mundane example. The husband comes home in the evening and the wife asks, do you love me? And the husband says, yes, of course I love you. And the wife asks, why do you love me? And the husband says, because you're my wife. Of course I love you. Right? You're my wife. Right? That's not actually the answer she was hoping for. In other words, I have to. It's the law. I have to love you. You're my wife. You know, husbands love wives. Right? But she wants to hear, no, I love you because, you know, the way you cook, because the way you speak, because of your eyebrows, the way you eyebrows, because of your features, your qualities. Not because I have to, but because I'm impelled to, because of your qualities. So in this way, there's no obligation. It's not that there's a duty to love Krishna in Vrindavan. We love him because he's God. Everybody loves God. If you don't love God, you're sinful. It's your obligation to love God. He's God, he's master, we're the servants. No, there's no sense of that. Aishadya na jane. Kebal Shuddha Prem. They're only in love with Krishna because of his ananda, lila, his qualities, his form, his pastimes, his behavior, the way he interacts with them. Manoha, he steals the heart. Manoha, he steals their minds with his behavior, with his enchanting smile. In Vrindavan, the wives of the Brahmins, when Krishna and Balaram, they sent them to get the prasadam. We were hungry. Balaram and Krishna feeling hungry. They sent the cowherd boys. And the wives of the Brahmins, the Brahmins, they didn't even respond. Completely ignored Balaram and the cowherd boys. And then they went back, we couldn't get any prasad. And Krishna said, go and see the cowherd maidens. Go and see the wives of the Brahmins. And when Krishna and Balaram when Balaram went and they said that we would bring some prasadam, Krishna and Balaram are hungry, then the wives immediately, they're packing yes, immediately. And the cowherd boys are thinking, okay, we'll take everything. And the wives of the Brahmins said, no. This is not a takeaway service. We're going. We're coming. And then Vyasa Muni, Sukdev Goswami, he describes what they saw of Krishna. His verse describes that Krishna is standing there in the forests, and he's leaning on a friend, and he's twirling a lotus flower with his beautiful the peacock feather in his head, the long blackish hair draped over his shoulders, his beautiful form, Kushtuba mani on his chest, his beautiful bluish form, his golden dhoti is described. They came to see that form. They're so much enchanted by his features, by his qualities, by his activities, and then he interacted with them, some exchanges. This is why the Brajavasis love Krishna so much. And Mahaprabhu, in his teachings to Rupa Goswami, he's explaining the ultimate conclusion, the ultimate supremacy of Vrindavan Prem. So seeing him, this text is explaining, seeing him lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, Bhīṣmadeva, like a demigod fallen from the sky. Daiva-chutam ivamarum. A demigod fallen from the sky. The Pandava king Yudhisthira, along with the younger brothers on Lord Krishna, bowed down before Bhīṣmadeva. So outside of Vrindavan, the Lord does perform these pastimes as an ordinary king, as an ordinary family member, and the Pandavas, they're able to interact with Krishna in that multifaceted way, both as an intimate friend and also without forgetting his supremacy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now it's very interesting that Lord Krishna and Vyasa Muni and the Pandavas, they go to see Bhīṣma lying on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He's been there already for Lord Bhīṣmadeva departs at Makar Sankranti, middle of January, and the Gita, it began that this Ekadashi, what's that Ekadashi called? When Gita was spoken? What's that? Anyway, on Ekadashi din. So then it's at Makar Sankranti, it's 2-3 weeks after the battle, 18 days, and then 2-3 weeks after that. Bhīṣmadeva is lying there for more than a month, about a month, 3 weeks, a month, lying there on the battlefield, with all the blood. And then the battle finished, and everyone went back to Hastinapur. Bhīṣmadeva is still lying there. He's waiting for the Uttara Narayan, that Makar Sankranti, middle of January. He's waiting for that time to leave, to depart at that time, because he had the boon to be able to Icha, mritu icha, to be able to die whenever he wants. So body was completely, blood was left, but he was remaining, consciousness was remaining in that body. This is all the Lord's arrangement. Lord Krishna wanted the Pandavas to go and see Bhīṣmadeva. He wanted Bhīṣmadeva to see the Pandavas in their opulence of success as the emperors of the world. Even though Bhīṣmadeva was fighting on the opposite side, sometimes people ask, if Bhīṣmadeva is a Mahajan, why was he fighting on the opposite side? Well, many reasons. Partly this reason, to show that the Lord will always be victorious. Even though Bhīṣmadeva was the greatest warrior, the greatest Maharati, greater than all Bhīṣmadeva. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanudara, tatra Shri Bijayo Bhuti. Dhruvanitin, when Dhritarashtra asks, what happened? And then in the conclusion, Sanjaya is concluding, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanudara, wherever there is Krishna and Arjuna, tatra Shri Bijayo, there will be opulence and victory. Dhruvanitin. This is the answer to the question. Krishna is there, there will be victory, regardless of how tremendous, terrific the opponents might be. And without Maharatis like Bhīṣma on the side of the Kauravas, then there was no question. There was a chance. The Kauravas had a chance, because they had the great Maharatis like Bhīṣmadeva. They had a chance. Without that, there would be no there would be no tension, no conflict, no chance of the Kauravas winning. The glories of Krishna and Arjuna and his devotee are not fully manifest unless the opponents are extremely formidable. So Bhīṣma was on the opposite side. But he's a great devotee, Bhīṣmadeva. We'll see in this chapter the passing of Bhīṣmadeva. He achieves the eternal abode of the Lord. And actually, we'll hear comments that Sukadeva Goswami is describing that Bhīṣma is more fortunate than Arjuna, because Arjuna could only see the back of Krishna on the chariot and Bhīṣma could see the front, the full darshan, which he fully absorbed himself in whilst he was leaving the body. And Krishna wanted to reciprocate with the devotion of Krishna, with the devotion of Bhīṣmadeva. He wanted to reciprocate, he wanted to fulfill his desire. So for that reason he went. For that reason he went. Here we're hearing describing they went from his to Hastinapur on their horses, which were decorated with golden jewels. And they went to back to the battlefield of Kurukshetra for the purpose of reason is because Yudhisthira needed to be enlightened by Bhīṣmadeva. Because as described in this verse, that even Vyas Muni and Lord Krishna were there, but the first verse describes that being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield. So Yudhisthira was actually depressed, seriously depressed, and he was unable to take up the responsibilities of imperial ruler. Even Lord Krishna and Vyas Muni tried to counsel Yudhisthira and they were unsuccessful. How is that possible? Of course, the Lord's arrangements, so that the glories of Bhīṣma can be seen. That even in such a condition, on the verge of death, lying on the battlefield, so we'll hear as Bhīṣmadeva welcomes them with words, because he's unable to stand, offer them a seat, etc., as usually you would receive a guest. That will be discussed in subsequent verses. So he's in such a dilapidated condition on the verge of death, and still he's able to give such transcendental advice, upadesh, instruction to Yudhisthira, that Yudhisthira becomes completely empowered. All of his anxiety, all of his depression is removed, and he's able to take up the responsibility as the emperor of the world as a result of Bhīṣmadeva's instructions. And we'll hear these instructions in this chapter. So for this reason, Krishna, along with Vyas and all of the Pandavas, are traveling in this way on golden horses, and Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot, and they're going and they've come in the presence of Bhīṣmadeva, and Lord Krishna is bowing down along with his cousins, and we discussed the significance of that. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? Yes. What? Use the mic. Can you speak loudly?
He has to lie down on the bed of arrows. So it was so painful. Took the situation made somewhat easy for him. Why was that arrow bed this fast?
Because we explained that, why it was so difficult, why he was in such it's okay. Why the question is, why was Bhīṣmadeva in such awkward circumstances? We explained that Krishna wants to show that such an exalted devotee, Mahajan is one of the 12 Mahajans, such an exalted devotee, even in such a condition, on the verge of death, where any normal person would be completely overwhelmed by that and completely unable to answer questions and explain and give instruction, give a lesson. But Bhīṣmadeva was able to give a more elaborate, more instructive lesson than even in this case Krishna and Vyas Muni were able to do. They were not able to deliver Yudhisthira from his despondency. He was still despondent as they were going, and Bhīṣmadeva was able to do that. So this is showing the glories of a Mahajan, of a great Vaishnava. Yeah. Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I know that in Navadip they live in huts, because Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata, they saw the footprints on the clay, on the mati floor. They saw the footprints of Sachinandan, which had the flag, the goad for controlling the elephants, a fish, and a grain, and other signs which are only found on the lotus seat of the Supreme Personality Godhead. They saw those all over the floor of the cottage. So the foot imprints were there because of mati. It's a clay cottage. Nana Ratna Nibata Mula Vitapashi Jukta Brindavane. What can we say? The Goswamis in Shad Goswami Ashtika, Srinivasacharya, he's explaining that Nana Ratna Nibada Mula Vitapa Shijukta Brindavane, that Nana Bada Vitapa in the mula, in the roots of the trees, Nana Bada Vitapa Mula in the roots of the trees, Nana Bada Nijukta, there's different types of jewels and transcendental gems. Sri Jukta Brindavane. In this way, Brindavan is full of opulence. Even though there's a village, it's a village environment, then if you under the trees in the roots, you'll find jewels. Nana Ratna Nibata Mula Nana Ratna Nibata Mula Vitapai Shijukta Brindavanam. Nana Ratna Nibata. There's so many types of jewels and emeralds, rubies, sapphires are there when you in the roots of the trees in Vrindavan. But actually, this rural setting, this is the most opulent. This is the most opulent, this rural setting. This is where the Lord plays. This is the beautiful gardens of Vrindavan. Jamuna Tire, on the banks of the Jamuna with the sweet water. There's no industry, no construction noise. No construction noise. People live in simple cottages that hand built. And this is the real opulence, simple living, hard thing. So Vrindavan is like that, and Navadip is like that. Thank you. Gruntraj, yes. Oh, Queen Kunti and the Pandavas, yeah, they're prema bhaktas. Yeah, that's Shuddha Bhakta. That's Shuddha Bhakti. It's Aishajya Jukta. There's consciousness of the Lord's supremacy, but there's no question of Ashuddha or impurity. It's prema. Narad Muni is a prema bhakta. Vaikuntha Bash is prema. You don't go there unless you're a prema bhakta. But it's Aishajya Jukta. There is not awareness of the Lord as the Supreme Lord. But in Vrindavan, the special feature of Vrindavan is that it is Aishajya Najane, that Aishajya element, that element of awareness of His supremacy is not there in Vrindavan. Nija Shambandha Shemane Kebo Shuddha Prem. It is simply intimate relationships, just like Mahaprabhu gives and that's preferred. That's the Ramna Kachit Upasana. What is the most Ramna Kachit Upasana? What is the most pleasing type of worship? Brajabadu Bhagena Jakalpita. That which is offered by the Brajabadu, by the residents of Vrindavan. That's the most pleasing type of worship. Even more pleasing than that which is offered by the residents of Dwarka, of Vaikuntha. That which is offered, because in that way the Lord can fully enjoy. If Majasoda says, oh, you can break so many butter pots, you're the Lord, I have no complaint. He enjoys when they forget He's God. He enjoys. Mahaprabhu gives the example that Devaki, she came to the assembly of the wrestling arena, and after Krishna killed Kamsa, she hadn't seen Krishna for many years. Devaki and Vasudeva, they hadn't seen Krishna, their child, for many, many years. What's the exact figure? Close to 10 years or something. Krishna went to Vrindavan and then came back to Mathura. He was a young boy at that time, youth. 10 years, they hadn't seen Krishna. You imagine your son, you're taken away at birth. So Devaki, she saw Krishna. Mahaprabhu is explaining this to Rupa Goswami. She saw Krishna. And she wanted to embrace him. She felt like maternal affection. She wanted to him, but she remembered he's the Supreme Lord. She paid her respects. And Mahaprabhu is explaining that that's not as pleasing to the Lord. When Satchidananda came back, I didn't tell this, but when Satchidananda came back, he went and took bath, and Jagannath Mishra and Satchimata, they're discussing, what is this? That how could the Brahmins and these Kumaris make a false case? They're honest Brahmins. How would they're contemplating in this way. At that time, Satchidananda comes back from the bath, and Jagannath Mishra sees him. He climbs up on his lap. Putra darsh anande guchilo bichar shneha punna hoilo duha kichu nahi ar. Putra darsh anande, when he saw his son climb up on his lap, guchilo bichar, the bichar, his analysis, his discussing, his considering, what is this boy? Guchilo, he completely forgot everything. Putra darsh anande guchilo bichar shneha punna hoilo duha kichu nahi ar. Shneha ponno hoilo, simply overwhelmed with affection. Shneha ponno, full of affection, without any other conception that he's a great personality. It is simply affection. Thank you. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shishinitai Gauda Shitanata Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.